Iswaran, the Storyteller. Today we are going to discuss the story that is written by R.K. Lakshman, who was one of the famous cartoonists of India. So let's begin with the story. As I told you, Iswaran. Iswaran is the central character of this story, who is a wonderful cook and he works for his master named Mahendra. Mahendra himself was a supervisor, a junior supervisor in a firm wherein his work was to supervise the different workers, and he has to move from one place to the other often. So this Iswaran was an asset to him because he not only cooked his food, rather washed his clothes, looked after his house and all the stuffs. In addition to that, Iswaran was having a superb skill, and the skill was storytelling. So someone who is storytelling possesses certain qualities. What are those? Creativity, imagination, full of expressions, and adding quite suspense, thriller to the stories. So this Iswaran, as I told you, was a cook, superb cook. He was called as to be a possessing superb culinary skills and a mind-blowing storyteller about which the whole story will revolve. Now what happens is, as I told you, that Mahendra has to move from one place to the another in terms of shifting because his job was of that type. So this Mahendra was also quite skilled in building up tents anywhere, may it be a quarry, stone quarry, may it be a desolate place or any kind of place, right? So once it happened the same, he had to move to the different place that was quite desolate. And as I told you that this Iswaran was a good storyteller, so what was his one of the habits that he used to look after his house. After Mahendra go for his work, he used to take leisurely bath for a long time, chanting his prayers, and after that time for lunch. Now after taking lunch, he used to read. He was a voracious reader. What he used to read was Tamil literature because he was quite inspired by the text of the Tamil literature, and that very imagination we could see in his stories. As if he had to just say, while coming to the house, I saw an uprooted tree. Now instead of saying this simple statement, he would weave a story out of it. I was coming to the house, a complete entire deserted place, a huge enormous bushy thing was found over there. I bent down, looked at it, and it was a bushy tree. So simple incident he used to narrate in this very manner. Similarly, one day he narrated one more anecdote about a tusker. Tusker is elephant. What he said, that when he was a child, that the tusker got mad because he belonged to a place where that was popular for timber, and the log of timber were hauled into the lorries by these tuskers, so called elephants, and the people who train these elephants are called mahouts, right? So he said that once happened that this tusker gone mad, destroyed everything around. The whole of the village was empty. All the people had hidden in their houses, and even no mahout could control him. So what next? The tusker moved. While going, he entered into a school, and the school was of Iswaran. He was studying there because the story of his childhood. The elephant could enter the school, breaking the walls. All the boys, those who were playing in the ground, went inside. They locked themselves inside, and all the teachers present over there climbed up the roof, climbed onto the roof, along with that Iswaran as well. Now Iswaran, as I told you, quite interesting. He said that this all things happen, and all of a sudden he was also noticing that he saw a cane above his head, a sugar cane. He took that cane and muster up courage to come down to the ground. That's all. He stopped over here. He didn't continue. And he said, let me go and warm up the dinner. Let you eat the dinner. Because he wanted that Mahendra himself would ask him what next. Because this is one of the quality of a storyteller, to leave a suspense in between. And you know what? When he would come back and Mahendra asked him what next, he would not pick up the thread from that very point. Rather, he would move ahead and said that, I went alone into the ground with the sugarcane in my hand. The elephant trumpeted. He was quite angry, quite annoyed. He moved in front. He looked at me red-eyed, and I was standing firm with the cane in my hands. And you know what next? I took the sugarcane and hit on his toe. All of a sudden, the elephant got paralyzed and fell down. Then Mahendra asked, how did you do that? How could you manage that? He said, once I got to read it, that it is a Japanese art, that is karate, called Jiu-Jitsu. And this is how I was able to paralyze the elephant. And after 2 days, a doctor was called for, a veterinary doctor. He treated him, and finally the Mahout took the tusker back to the timber forest. So this is very simply that narrating a small incident, he could build up something fascinating out of it. Similarly, he again has woven a story that once it was full moon night, he told Mahendra that today I would be cooking varied delicacies. Mahendra asked why. He said, today is an auspicious day, a day of supernatural powers, a day of our ancestors. It's in our tradition. Mahendra said, fine. Iswaran cooked varied delicacies. As I told you, he was famous for his culinary skills. He did that. Now, Mahendra eaten his fill. Time for entertainment. Iswaran ready with the story. What he narrated that day was quite horror, quite haunted. What he said that when I was coming to the place, I saw a skull. And number of times I went outside, I see number of skulls and bones, because the place we are living in was once a graveyard. Listening to this, whatever the delicious food Mahendra had eaten was all digested in a second, because he was scared. Graveyard, we are living in a graveyard, a place, a haunted place. And Iswaran said, you know, every full moon night, I could see a lady over here with matted hair, and she looks like a skeleton carrying a fetus in her hand. Listening to all this, Mahendra was quite terrified. He rebuffed Iswaran then and there. He scolded him and left the place. He thought that now getting these much of scoldings, Iswaran would be silent for certain days. But no, Iswaran was of jovial nature. Next day again, she was very fine. She was that joyful mood. Prepared the breakfast, prepared lunch given to Mahendra, and Mahendra went. In the night again seemed normal, casual. There was no effect on him. Anyways, Mahendra said, maybe Iswaran would stop now telling me these kind of haunted stories. But the haunted story, that story of supernatural powers, had created a space at the subconscious mind of Mahendra. And every night since the day onwards, before going to bed, he was always scared. He was having in the back of his mind the scare, the threaten, the fear of the ghosts. And as they say, what you think, you see. Same happened with Mahendra. One full moon night. And he was just sleeping in the midnight. He could hear a low moan, M-O-A-N, low moan. He thought might be a cat prowling for a mouse. But after a while, he could make out the voice is not of the cat. He got scared. Anyhow, slowly and gradually, he could bend down and look out of the window. It was a full moon night. Quite looking far the beautiful landscape, there was nothing except the twinkling lights of the factory. And he could see a bundle of something callous outside. He was scared. He came back, he rushed and slept down, patting on the pillow. The night passed. The next morning, Iswaran came. Mahendra, as usual, took bath, got ready for the work. Iswaran came and Iswaran asked him, "So, sir, what about the moaning you heard last night?" Listening to this, something occurred in the spine of Mahendra. He was again threatened, but anyhow he was able to manage that he is not scared. And the memory of the last night was getting faded. But again, then Iswaran said, "I came near to the house and also could hear the low moan." But Mahendra, without saying anything, without letting Iswaran complete his statement, he went to the factory with certain papers. And that papers were of his resignation from the work that he had got at that very place. He handed over the resignation papers and left the place. So this is what the beauty of telling stories. Because Iswaran with his stories made Mahendra quite entertainment. And also it is said that he was a makeup for the television. Because as I told you, his work was to move from one place to the another. Certain days at certain place, certain days at certain place. He could not afford to carry the TVs and all the things. So, Iswaran was the only source of entertainment for him. And as I told you, entertainment in the form of humorous, in the form of thriller, suspense, interesting and everything. Right? So now, be ready with your pen and paper to note down the vocabulary that will help you to make your answers effective. Number 1, real asset. As I told you that Iswaran was a real asset to Mahendra. He was loyal and hardworking. Next, possessing extraordinary culinary skills. Next, he could narrate stories in with dramatic gestures. Fine, one of the very important characteristics of a storyteller. Next, Mahendra, what was his views regarding the spirits when he told a story about a lady that was seen on full moon night? He said that spirits are nothing but a figment of imagination. He cooked various delicacies, delicious food for the ancestors. Right? Next, desolate place, lonely place. Fine. So the viewers, if you feel that these videos, my videos will provide something, will be helpful to you people, then don't forget to share with your near and dear ones. And also please help me to improve myself by giving your valuable comments in the comment box. Thank you.